The stars stretched endlessly around the Wayfarer. Captain Jarek gripped the pilot controls, feeling the power of the celestial artifact pulsing through his body. Niraya sat beside him, glowing softly, her eyes calm but sharp, scanning the approaching fleet. "They've regrouped," Jarek said, his voice steady. "Looks like they didn't get the message last time." "They will not stop," Niraya replied. "But now, you are ready." Jarek glanced at her. He understood now what she meant. The artifact had enhanced his abilities, yes, but it was his courage, his quick thinking, and his creativity that would truly decide the battle. Humans had survived by being clever, adaptable, and unafraid to act when others hesitated. The alien hunters advanced, their ships gleaming green in the darkness of space. There were 7 of them this time, larger and more dangerous than before. They fired plasma bolts, each one lighting up the void. Jarek's eyes narrowed. Time to show them what humans can do. He focused, feeling the artifact's energy coursing through him. He could sense the weak points in the enemy ships, anticipate their maneuvers, and plan attacks before the enemy even acted. It was as if the stars themselves guided his hands. He zipped the Wayfarer between 2 massive asteroids, dodging bolts with impossible precision. A hunter tried to cut him off, but Jarek twisted the ship at the last second. The artifact pulsed, sending a burst of energy that temporarily disabled the hunter's engines. "Nice," Niraya said, a faint smile on her lips. "Quick thinking." "Very human," Jarek grinned. "Humans always find a way." The remaining ships circled him, trying to trap the Wayfarer. But Jarek had more than speed. He had strategy. He led them toward a field of floating energy crystals. The hunters followed blindly, their weapons blazing. Then he acted. Using the artifact, he sent a controlled pulse that activated the crystals. They emitted waves of energy that interfered with the enemy systems, causing shields to flicker and engines to misfire. One by one, the hunters lost control, spinning out or colliding with the floating rocks. Jarek laughed, feeling the thrill of victory mixed with relief. That's what happens when humans fight smart. But the fight wasn't over. One ship, larger and more armored than the others, remained. It had been watching him, learning from his movements, and it now surged forward with deadly speed. "Last one," Jarek muttered, gripping the controls tightly. The ship fired a massive beam of energy. Jarek dodged, twisting the Wayfarer in midair. But he didn't just dodge. He used the artifact to redirect a small portion of the enemy energy back at it. The beam struck the hunter's hull, causing a cascade of sparks and explosions. The enemy vessel tumbled, finally losing control and spinning into the void. Jarek exhaled slowly. The space was quiet now, except for the hum of his ship and the faint glow of the artifact. Niraya's eyes shone brighter than before. "You have done it. You have protected us and shown the power of humans." Jarek shook his head in disbelief. "All of this? From saving one alien grandma?" She laughed softly. "Small acts of courage can echo across the stars. You were ready to act without hesitation. That is why the bond chose you. That is why you succeeded." Jarek felt a swell of pride, but also humility. He realized something important. Humans were often underestimated. Many species thought of them as weak, slow, or unimportant, but moments like this proved the opposite. Humans could adapt, think, and act in ways that others could not imagine. He looked at Niraya. "What happens now?" She touched his arm gently. "Now, we ensure your message spreads. They will know humans are not to be feared, but respected. Courage, kindness, and cleverness, these are your true weapons. You have shown them." Jarek nodded. He knew she was right. He had defended not just himself and Niraya, but the principles of humanity, ingenuity, bravery, and heart. They returned to the Lumina Grove, where the alien sanctuary's energy flowed gently through the halls. Niraya guided him to a central chamber, where relics of her people rested, devices, writings, and symbols of wisdom. "Humans have left their mark in the stars now," she said. "And you, Jarek, have left a mark that will never be forgotten." Jarek felt the artifact pulse warmly on his wrist. It wasn't just a gift. It was a symbol that courage, cleverness, and compassion could overcome danger and fear, even in a galaxy filled with threats. For the first time in months, Jarek smiled fully, letting himself feel the joy of achievement. He had saved a life, gained an incredible bond, and shown that humanity was capable of greatness. Outside the sanctuary, Small fleets from nearby star systems began picking up news of the battle. Aliens who had only seen humans as weak or unpredictable now whispered stories of a human captain and an ancient artifact. The galaxy began to notice. Humans could be more than explorers or miners. They could be heroes. Jarek stood at the edge of a balcony overlooking the glowing chambers. Niraya beside him, he felt the future stretching out. There would be more challenges, more hunters, and more threats. But he was ready. Humans were ready. Looks like we've got a lot to teach the galaxy, Jarek said. Niraya's eyes sparkled. Yes, and you will teach it well. Humans and Celestials together. A force of courage and wisdom. Jarek laughed softly. I never thought saving one alien grandma would lead to this. Changing the galaxy. She touched his arm again. Small acts can echo across stars. Remember this, Jarek. Always. As the stars glimmered beyond the sanctuary, Jarek realized he had become more than a human captain. He had become a symbol, proof that humans could combine courage, cleverness, and compassion to shape the galaxy. And far away in systems yet unknown, whispers began. Stories of a human who saved a celestial, bonded with ancient power, and faced impossible odds began to spread. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. Jarek smiled, feeling the weight and the joy of it all. He had done what many thought impossible. He had saved a life, protected wisdom, and shown that humans could leave a mark on the stars. Forever. The Wayfarer stood ready, the artifact pulsing softly, and the future opened before them. Humans had arrived in a galaxy full of wonder, danger, and possibilities. And this was only the beginning. Captain Jarek glanced at Niraya one last time. Ready for the next adventure? She smiled. Always. And together, human and celestial, they left the Lumina Grove carrying courage, wisdom, and hope into the stars. The galaxy watched, curious, in awe, and a little afraid. Humans had arrived, and the universe would never be the same. The hidden chamber of the Lumina Grove glowed softly with blue and silver light. Captain Jarek stood beside Niraya, staring at the strange alien devices surrounding them. Each machine pulsed with energy, moving without gears or motors, alive in a way that seemed impossible. You said this would change my life, Jarek said, his voice half in awe, half in disbelief. Niraya nodded, her glowing eyes fixed on him. It will. Only one who proves courage, kindness, and cleverness can receive it. Jarek looked down at his wrist. The mark from before pulsed warmly, matching the rhythm of the devices around them. So all this is because of that? Yes, she said softly. You saved me when no one else would. You acted without fear. That is rare among humans, and rare among all beings, Jarek swallowed. Rare, huh? I just did what anyone should do. Niraya smiled faintly. Few act without thinking of themselves first. You did. She motioned for him to follow. The two of them approached the largest device in the chamber. It was a tall structure carved with alien symbols and radiated soft energy. The air around it shimmered. This, Niraya said, is a celestial artifact. It chooses one who can carry it. She raised her hand and the device glowed brighter. It will grant abilities, knowledge, and vision, but only to those who deserve it. Jarek felt a mix of excitement and fear. Abilities? He asked. What kind? Niraya's eyes sparkled with light. Perception, energy manipulation, strategy beyond normal thinking. It will bond to your spirit, to your courage. Jarek hesitated. Sounds dangerous. Only if used for selfishness, Niraya replied. You have shown selflessness. That is why it chose you. She gestured toward him. Slowly, carefully, he reached out and touched the glowing surface. Immediately, energy surged through him. It wasn't painful, but it made him feel alive in ways he had never imagined. Colors sharpened, sounds became clear, and even the faintest vibrations of the chamber reached him. The mark on his wrist flared and spread up his arm. He could feel the bond connecting him to the device, to Niraya, and somehow to the stars themselves. Whoa, Jarek whispered. He could feel knowledge forming inside his mind, strategies, designs, and ideas. He saw how energy moved through the machines and even through the stars. It was overwhelming but exhilarating. Niraya watched him closely. Do not fear. It is a gift and a responsibility. Humans often lack patience for power. You are different. Jarek took a deep breath. I feel everything. It's amazing, but I don't fully understand. You will. she said. Time and practice. First, you must learn to control it. Then, the galaxy will know the human spirit is stronger than many believe. For the first time, Jarek realized something important. Humans were clever, brave, and adaptable. They didn't have the oldest knowledge like the Celestials, but they had creativity and courage that could match it. This artifact, combined with human ingenuity, could be unstoppable. Niraya reached for his hand again. The bond is complete. You may never fully understand its power, but it will guide you in battle. The Wayfarer drifted quietly through deep space. Captain Jarek sat in the pilot's chair staring at the stars ahead. His thoughts kept circling around one word Niraya had spoken before she slept. Celestials. Who were they? And why did these hunters want her so badly? Behind him, the ship's AI spoke in its calm voice. Captain, long-range scans show multiple ships entering this sector. Estimated arrival time, 2 hours. Jarek frowned. More hunters? Probability high. Their energy signatures match the vessels we encountered earlier. He rubbed his face with one hand. Trouble never came alone. He turned his chair toward the med bay. Inside, Niraya rested on a padded bed. Her breathing was slow but steady, the oxygen mask still helping her. Faint lines of light pulsed under her skin like rivers of energy. Jarek stepped in and crouched beside her. Hey, Grandma. We've got company coming. You need to tell me what's going on. Niraya opened her glowing eyes slowly.
They will not stop, she whispered.
They hunt what remains of us. They fear knowledge. Knowledge? Jarek asked. That's what they're after? She nodded weakly. Celestials kept wisdom. Old power. Hunters want it, but cannot hold it. Too dangerous. Jarek felt the glowing mark on his wrist pulse again. He looked down at it, then back at her. And this bond thing you gave me? What's that about? Niraya's lips curved into a tired smile. Only few can carry bond. Courage, kindness, strength of heart. You showed it. Jarek snorted softly. Kindness, huh? I just didn't want to leave you to die down there. But deep down he felt the weight of her words. He wasn't special, just a man doing his duty. And yet somehow he had become tied to something ancient and powerful. Before he could ask more, the ship's AI interrupted. Captain, hostile ships have accelerated. Estimated arrival time, 30 minutes, Jarek cursed under his breath. He stood and returned to the pilot's seat. Niraya watched him, her expression calm despite the danger. The hunters came fast. 3 sharp vessels appeared on the scanners, spreading out like wolves around prey. Their engines glowed, cutting across the stars. Jarek prepared his ship. He didn't have enough weapons to fight directly. His only chance was to outthink them. All right, Wayfarer, let's see if we can play hide and seek. He dove the ship toward a field of drifting asteroids nearby. The rocks spun slowly, lit by distant starlight. It was a dangerous place to fly, but also the perfect cover. The hunters followed. Their sleek ships weaved between the rocks with practiced skill. Jarek guided the Wayfarer into the maze, twisting and dodging. Each move came sharper, clearer, as the glowing bond on his wrist pulsed again. Niraya's gift seemed to heighten his instincts, helping him see paths others would miss. Laser fire lit up the darkness. The hunters tried to corner him, but Jarek used the asteroids themselves as shields. He skimmed close to the surface of one rock, forcing the enemy to back off or risk collision. Inside the cockpit, Niraya steadied herself on the chair. You fly with spirit, she said softly. Jarek grinned. That's one way of saying it. But even with clever flying, he knew he couldn't keep this up forever. The hunters had numbers and firepower. He needed a plan. His eyes landed on a cluster of massive asteroids ahead. Some of them had hollow spaces visible through cracks, perfect hiding places. He guided the Wayfarer toward one of the largest. The hunters pursued, firing relentlessly. The ship's hull shuddered under near hits. Jarek winced at the damage reports flashing on his screen. Hang on, he shouted. He pushed the ship into a narrow crevice in the asteroid. The walls scraped the hull, sparks flying, but the Wayfarer squeezed inside. Darkness swallowed them as the ship settled in the hollow space. Jarek shut down the engines completely. The ship floated in silence. Outside, the hunters scanned, but without energy readings, they couldn't track him easily. For several tense minutes, the ship remained quiet. Niraya closed her eyes, whispering something in her language like a prayer. Jarek sat still, sweat running down his neck. The hunters passed by once, twice. Then one of them fired into the asteroid wall, testing. The impact shook the cave violently, dust and rock falling around them. They'll find us soon, Jarek muttered. Neriah opened her eyes.
There is...
Another path. What path? He asked. She lifted her trembling hand and touched the wall of the asteroid. The glowing lines under her skin brightened. Suddenly faint symbols appeared on the rock around them. The same ancient writing Jarek had seen on the planet. This place. Old refuge, Neriah explained. Celestial path hidden. I can open, but need your strength. Jarek hesitated, then placed his marked wrist against the glowing symbols. Instantly, the mark pulsed with energy, resonating with the writings. The rock wall shimmered and faded, revealing a hidden tunnel leading deeper inside. Jarek stared in disbelief. You've got to be kidding me. Neriah gave a faint smile. Not kidding, go. He powered up the engines just enough to guide the ship through the hidden tunnel. As they entered, the wall closed behind them, hiding the entrance once more. The hunters outside fired again, but now the cave showed only solid rock. Inside, the tunnel widened into a vast chamber glowing with soft blue light. Strange alien machines stood silently, their designs elegant and ancient. Jarek guided the ship to a landing pad built into the stone. He stepped out with Neriah, supporting her gently as they walked. The air here was clean, not poisoned like the planet. Neriah looked around, her eyes filled with memory. Lumina Grove, she whispered. One of the last sanctuaries. Jarek turned in a slow circle, staring at the alien machines and glowing walls. He had stumbled onto something far bigger than a rescue mission, but before he could ask questions, the AI spoke again. Captain, external scans show enemy ships remain in orbit. They are not leaving. They wait. Jarek clenched his fists. The hunters weren't done. They never would be. He looked at Neriah. So, Grandma, you're going to have to tell me everything. Because right now it seems like the whole galaxy wants you, and I need to know why. Neriah lowered herself onto a stone seat, her glowing eyes fixed on him. For the first time, she looked not just old and tired, but determined. It is time you learn, she said, about the Celestials, and why the Bond chose you. The chamber's lights brightened as if responding to her words. Jarek crossed his arms, ready to listen. Whatever the truth was, he had a feeling it was going to change not just his life, but humanity's place in the galaxy. The hidden chamber of Lumina Grove was quiet, filled only with the faint hum of ancient energy. Captain Jarek and Neriah moved deeper into the sanctuary, their footsteps echoing against the glowing walls. The air felt alive, filled with power he could sense but not fully understand. Jarek glanced around, his eyes widening at the strange machines and symbols. I've never seen anything like this, he said. What is all this? Neriah gave a small, knowing smile. These are remnants of the Celestials. They were a race older than most galaxies, keepers of knowledge and energy. They created artifacts to store wisdom, power, and guidance. Many of their secrets were lost when their kind disappeared. Jarek frowned. So these hunters. They're after the same things? Yes, she replied. They fear the power of the Celestials, but they cannot control it. They want it to gain dominance over others, but power without wisdom is dangerous. The captain felt the glowing mark on his wrist pulse again. It throbbed softly as if it wanted to guide him. And this bond you gave me? It's connected to them? Neriah nodded. Yes, the bond links you to their energy, their wisdom, and their guidance. Only those with courage and selflessness can maintain it. You proved yourself by saving me. Now you can access knowledge and strategies that most beings could never comprehend. Jarek swallowed. Knowledge and strategies. Sounds like a lot of responsibility. It is, Neriah said quietly. But humans have a strength many do not see. Courage, adaptability, and cleverness. You have these qualities, Jarek. That is why the Celestials allowed you to carry their gift. He looked down at his wrist. The mark glowed brighter now, the lines moving as if alive. He felt a warmth spreading through his chest, a sensation that both energized and calmed him. He could sense the energy in the room, flowing through the machines, through Neriah, and even through the stars outside. Can you teach me? He asked. How to use it? Neriah nodded. Yes, but you must understand, this gift is not for personal gain. It is for protection, guidance, and balance. The galaxy is full of beings who seek power for selfish reasons. You must act wisely. Jarek took a deep breath. I get it. I don't want to use this to harm anyone, unless it's to protect life. Good, she said. First, you must understand the energy. Feel it, listen to it. Let it guide your instincts. He closed his eyes and focused. The mark pulsed against his skin, and slowly he began to sense patterns around him. The flow of energy through the chamber, the pulse of the machines, even the faint echoes of distant stars. It was overwhelming at first, but then clarity came. He could see paths, anticipate actions, and sense the intentions of those around him. Niraya watched quietly. You are learning quickly. The bond strengthens with focus and purpose. Suddenly, the chamber trembled. Yarek opened his eyes and saw a disturbance on the outer sensors. The hunters had tracked them again and were preparing to strike. Jarek's pulse quickened. They're not giving up. Niraya's glowing eyes narrowed. No, they will not. But now you are ready to face them. He glanced at her. Ready, I feel. Captain Jarek sat in the command chair of his small exploration ship Wayfarer. The ship drifted quietly near the edge of an uncharted star system, its hull reflecting the pale light of a dying sun. Yarek had been alone for months, mapping new systems, scanning planets, and collecting data for the human expansion fleet. Exploration was a lonely job, but he liked it that way. The ship's AI broke the silence. Captain, unusual signal detected. Frequency pattern does not match known archives. Jarek raised an eyebrow. Unusual, huh? Location? Surface of third planet in system. Coordinates uploaded. Jarek leaned forward, curiosity sparking inside him. Exploration missions often turned dull after weeks of scanning rocks and empty worlds. A strange signal was a rare change. All right, Wayfarer, bring us closer. Let's take a look. The planet below was harsh. Its surface was covered in jagged mountains and wide plains of black stone. Pockets of green mist rose from cracks in the ground, poisonous gases glowing faintly. No cities, no farms, no life signs on the wide scans. But the signal pulsed again, steady, faint, and old. Jarek prepared his landing gear and descended through turbulent clouds. The ship trembled but held steady. After finding a clear patch, he touched down on rocky ground. He equipped his breathing mask and light armor before stepping outside. The air smelled like rust and fire even through the filters. His scanner beeped, showing the signal was only a few hundred meters away. He moved carefully, stepping over cracked stone and avoiding pools of glowing liquid that hissed when drops hit the ground. Then he saw her. At first, he thought it was just another strange rock formation, but as he drew closer, the figure moved. It was a small alien, hunched over, her skin a faded shade of silver with lines of faint light running through it. Her limbs were thin and trembling. She looked old, very old. In her hands, she held a small device that blinked weakly with dying energy. Jarek froze. He had seen many aliens during his years of service, but never one like her. Her eyes lifted slowly, glowing with a soft blue light, and she gave a sound like a sigh mixed with a whisper. Help? The word was broken but clear. Jarek's instincts kicked in. He rushed forward and knelt beside her. Easy there. I'm not here to hurt you. She was breathing hard, her chest rising slowly. The poisonous air was clearly too much for her frail body. Without thinking twice, Jarek removed the spare oxygen mask from his pack and gently placed it over her face. She resisted for a moment, then relaxed as clean air flowed into her lungs. Better? He asked. The alien gave a tiny nod. Niraya. Name. Niraya. Jarek, he replied, tapping his chest. Captain Jarek. For a brief moment there was peace. But then the ground began to shake. A low rumble echoed through the rocks and Jarek's scanner went wild. Something big was moving toward them. A monstrous creature crawled from a crevice nearby. It had 6 legs, armored plates, and a jaw lined with teeth like jagged glass. Its eyes glowed red in the toxic mist. It let out a roar that made the rocks tremble. Jarek cursed under his breath. Of course. Trouble always finds me. He pulled out his pulse rifle, but he knew its power cell was half drained. He couldn't fight this beast head-on. He glanced at Niraya. She was weak, trembling, but her eyes showed she trusted him. Stay down, he said firmly. The creature charged. Jarek leaped to the side, firing quick bursts at its armored hide. Sparks flew, but the shots barely slowed it. The beast slammed into a rock, breaking it apart with terrifying force. Jarek ran, dodging between stone pillars. He remembered training. Don't fight strength with strength. Outsmart it. He spotted a deep pit nearby, hidden under loose ground. If he could lure the beast there, he shouted, waving his arms to draw its attention. The monster turned and charged after him, claws scraping stone. Jarek sprinted toward the pit, his heart pounding. At the last second, he dove aside. The beast's weight broke the ground, and it tumbled into the pit with a deafening crash. The creature roared and thrashed, but the walls were too steep for it to climb out. Dust filled the air. Jarek coughed but grinned. Still got it. He hurried back to Niraya. She sat against a rock, watching with wide eyes. When Jarek knelt beside her, she reached out with a trembling hand. She touched his wrist. For a second, his skin burned softly with light. A glowing mark spread across his wrist like a tattoo made of energy. Jarek gasped, staring at it. What? What did you do? He asked. Niraya's voice was weak but calm.
Gift bond, you...
Saved. The mark faded slightly, but Jarek could still feel it like a warm pulse under his skin. He didn't understand, but he could tell it was important. He helped Niraya stand, supporting her weight carefully. Come on, I've got a ship nearby. We'll get you somewhere safe. As they moved toward the landing site, Jarek noticed strange carvings on the rocks around them. Symbols glowing faintly in the mist. They weren't random. They were writing. He couldn't read it, but Niraya gave it a long look before whispering something in her own language. Jarek felt a shiver. This place wasn't just a wasteland. It had history. When they reached the ship, Niraya looked at it with surprise, as if she had never seen human technology before. Jarek helped her inside, placing her gently on a chair. The ship's AI scanned her quickly. Warning, the AI said. Unknown life form. Vital signs weak. Immediate care required. Do what you can, Jarek ordered. As the ship began treatment, Niraya's eyes rested on Jarek again. She seemed to study him as if weighing his spirit. Then she whispered, danger, coming. Not safe here, Jarek frowned. What kind of danger? Her answer was cut off as the ship sensors blared alarms. Multiple signals were approaching from orbit. Ships, not human. Jarek tightened his grip on the pilot controls. He looked at Niraya, then at the glowing mark on his wrist. For some reason, he knew his life was about to change forever. The warning sirens echoed through the Wayfarer's cabin. Red lights pulsed across the panels, and the ship's AI voice spoke with unusual urgency. Multiple vessels detected. Approach vector indicates hostile intent. Captain, recommend immediate action. Captain Jarek tightened his jaw. He had seen enough in his years of exploration to know that uninvited ships never meant good news. He glanced at Niraya, the frail alien grandma resting in the co-pilot's chair. Her glowing eyes looked fearful but calm, as if she had expected this. Who are they? Jarek asked quickly. Friends of yours? Niraya shook her head slowly. Her weak voice carried a warning. Hunters. They seek me. Always. That was enough for Jarek. He spun the pilot controls, lifting the Wayfarer from the rocky surface. The engines roared, pushing the ship upward through the heavy clouds. Poisonous mist fell away, replaced by the black sky above. But the scanners showed the truth. 3 alien ships descended from orbit, sharp and predatory with long spears of metal for hulls. Their engines burned a deep green flame. They spread out, moving to cut off Jarek's escape path. The AI spoke again. Probability of evasion without conflict, 15%. Jarek smirked despite the odds. 15's better than 0. Let's dance. He twisted the ship hard to the left. The Wayfarer spun between jagged cliffs and burst into open sky, racing upward. Plasma bolts streaked past the hull, shaking the ship. Niraya gasped and clutched her seat. Jarek's hands moved fast, guiding the ship with steady skill. He cut power to the main engines for a moment, letting the enemy overshoot, then reignited the thrusters to slip behind them. A bold trick, risky but very human. The alien ships adjusted quickly, showing they weren't simple raiders. They knew how to hunt. Niraya touched Jarek's wrist suddenly. The strange glowing mark from before burned warm again. I give. Help, she whispered. Before Jarek could respond, a wave of calm and clarity filled his mind. His thoughts sharpened. The enemy ship's movement seemed slower, easier to predict. He dodged incoming fire with precision, threading the Wayfarer through deadly blasts. What did you just do? Jarek asked, eyes fixed on the battle. Niraya gave a faint smile. But you saved me now. I share strength. Jarek didn't have time to question further. He pulled a hard maneuver, diving the Wayfarer straight down toward the surface again. The alien pursuers followed, thinking they had him cornered. But Jarek had already chosen his trap. He skimmed the ship across a valley filled with glowing gas vents. At the last second, he fired 2 flares from the back of the Wayfarer. The heat ignited the vents, creating a massive explosion of fire and mist. One alien ship was caught in the blast, spinning out of control before crashing into the rocks below. 2 left, Jarek muttered, sweat on his forehead. The others pressed harder. Their weapons carved lines of light across the sky. Jarek's ship shook violently as a bolt grazed the hull, alarms blaring, but his sharp focus combined with Neraya's strange gift kept him alive. At last he found a narrow canyon and guided the wayfarer into it. The enemy ships hesitated before entering. The canyon was too tight for all 3 to fly safely. Only one followed him in, the other circling above. Perfect. Jarek led the pursuer deep into the canyon, dodging rock spires and tight turns. The alien ship had more firepower, but Jarek had agility. At the final bend, he cut engines for a heartbeat, letting the ship drift. The alien behind him miscalculated and slammed into the canyon wall, exploding in a storm of light and stone. 1 left, Jarek said with relief. But the last enemy ship, still above, began transmitting a signal. The AI translated quickly. Message detected. They demand surrender.